Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here, and this is a little commentary series by Lightfoot. I have had this thing for years, used it some, not extensively. Now, I love the concept of it, like, the Jewish people in the time of Christ by Schur, and of course, Edersheim's The Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah. It was one of the first videos we ever did. So this is put out by the Hendrickson brothers. They started Hendrickson when they were like 18 and 21, and look what it's done now. So commentary on the New Testament from the Talmud and Hebraica. So introduction by R. Laird Harris, very famous theologian, 1979. This is first printing 1989. Occasionally, they'll come out with reprints. They'll do really cheap. So this is actually a 4-volume set. Whenever I do multi-volume sets, like you'd have to know how, like I'm not going to bring out 23 volumes and stuff. I'll usually just bring out 1 or 2 volumes because it lets you get representative of what's going on. So like this is to his dear friend, St. Catherine's Hall. So that's kind of cool. Has Latin at the bottom. The one thing I don't like about a lot of these older volumes, like I've studied Latin, but I don't know Latin. And it's been a long time since I was really into Greek. And I've never known Hebrew that well. I have studied Hebrew. But once I found out that Paleo Hebrew is what the Old Testament was written in and not regular Hebrew, I was like, well, then why am I going to do this? So this is a dedication, execrations upon St. Matthew. So above all the other parts of the temple, the porch of the temple, yes, the whole... is that probion space before it may not be unfitly called. So you kind of have to know Greek. Maybe that he's translating a little bit. Let me see if I can find something at the very beginning. Yeah, so this was done from my study, the Calends of June, 1658. So that's what I wanted to point out to you. It's not the Lightfoot from the 1800s. There was another theologian, Lightfoot. I'm forgetting if this is JP or JB, but this is actually from the 1600s. Amazing, it is still in print. Now, you have to realize that in that era, they studied rabbinical sources very exhaustively because of the Reformation. So they were trying to figure out what is true Bible doctrine. And then for Bible translating. So it was just something they did, and there was actually, being a state church, the government would fund them to do this kind of stuff. So this is 480 pages. And now one thing I've never done in this, like I would like to, I'm probably just never going to be able to, is just start reading at the front and read through it. I mean, maybe I will, but I don't see any reason. I'd probably be rather telling people about Jesus. Okay, the cure was done in Galilee, and thence he is sent away to Jerusalem. Silence and sacrifice enjoined him. See thou tell no man, and offer the gift. I do think he is translating this Greek, what little I know Greek. And why all these things? First, Christ makes trial of the obedience and gratitude of him that's cured, on and so forth. So this is volume 2. I'll show you volume 1 here as well. Take a look in there. Again, it is a 4-volume set. Now, they periodically ran these like really cheap. I think like $19.95, $24.95 cheap. But the normal retail is higher than that. You might want to try like Baker Used Books as well. Up in Grand Rapids, they have a website, but you can also call them and just see. Okay, so This is, during the Middle Ages, the Talmud was the exclusive property of the Jews. Tragically, it was not even allowed to be their property for the persecutions of the Jewish heretics, and later the Protestant heretics too, extended also to their sacred books. As a consequence, very few manuscripts of the Babylonian Jerusalem Talmud survive. And Hebraica John Lightfoot, 1602 to 1675. Now, I've done a review on the Babylonian Talmud, and I showed in that like some of the bad things they wrote about Jesus and Christians. And I'm afraid that videos may be being used by people that are like really anti-Jewish, which I am not. I'm just trying to show that, you know, there's a balance there. There's some Christians that think Jews, they're saved, they don't need the gospel of Jesus Christ, they don't even need to know Jesus Christ, and they're saved and they're fine. I would say, you know, Paul needed the gospel, he was a Jew. Peter needed the gospel, he was a Jew. Jews need the gospel just like everybody needs the gospel. So I think there's a balance here. And so I was just trying to show some of those people that, hey, they don't just uncritically accept everything Jewish people say, because they've had some things, bad things to say about Jesus and Christians over the course of time. At the same time, I'm very fascinated with their ways of doing rabbi. I mean, I think Brother Mooney at IBC has tried to institute rabbinical teaching, and it's fascinating to me, like John Maxwell does this for business people. They just follow him around, you know. So anyhow, and he turns and teaches. That's what Jesus would do. So this is just a good little thing here. So the commentary on the New Testament from the Talmud in Hebraica, fascinating. And it's one of those things you may want to get in your library. I'm sure you can get it electronically as well. So God bless. Talk with you later in Jesus' name.